Hi folks, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Payal and I am a traveler who also loves to meet people. And I think a blend of both is where this concept of melting pot has come about. In my Melting Pot series, I will be talking to lots of inspiring people from different parts of the world and also from different cultures, whom I meet during all my travels. The common factor between these folks will be the desire to follow their passion and make it a way of life. So step into this melting pot and enjoy the chats. Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Melting Pot, and I seem to have fallen in love with Lucknow because I'm just, it's just flowing. I've met so many fascinating and interesting people here that I've literally, wherever I go, I've just been carrying my recorder because I never know whom I end up meeting with and start talking to. So today I am in conversation. It's taken me a while to convince this gentleman, but I've managed to do it. So, and I'm sure it's going to be a very riveting conversation. I'm talking to Prashant Chandra, who's born and bred in Lucknow. By profession, a lawyer, but by passion, a food, should I say not food, but an Awadhi cuisine connoisseur. And thank you so much, Prashant, for being a part of my show. I know that I've had to do a little bit of convincing, but now that I have you here, I'd love to hear everything that you have to share.
Well, actually, I think you perhaps are looking for something to do with the food part, is it?
Yes. Food, and also I know food plays a very important part in the in the culture of a place.
Now I'll tell you how it plays a very important part in the culture of particularly Awadhi and more particularly Lucknow.
Okay.
I remember as a child, my grandfather was one of the leading lawyers of this city, rather this country one can say, and he used to throw parties very often.
Okay.
And we had this, the setup in which I have been brought up was a joint family setup, almost about 50 people eating under one roof.
Wow.
So as it is, the kitchen was a very vast thing and a very important thing in my family, in my household, because somebody would like to eat one particular dish, the other would like to eat another particular dish. Imagine 50 people eating.
Yeah.
But whenever he used to host parties, he was very, very particular that the spread should be as big as possible. To this, sometimes my grandmother used to ask him, why do you do this? After all, a person, he eats one or two things and that is about all.
Yeah.
So he used to say, ki if you call somebody, then you have to search for his palate. And he used to say, ki as far as possible, every effort should be made that a person who's coming to you for having a meal, he should not go hungry in any manner. So that was the reason that he used to give us for a large spread. Somebody might be liking chicken, somebody might be liking mutton.
Yeah.
How would you know?
Yeah.
So that was the whole idea.
Right.
And then the second thing was that the food that you serve should be palatable, should be delicious.
Yeah.
So that is the time we realized that unless you involve yourself
Yeah.
in right from the very inception in cooking,
Right.
you won't get a good dish prepared.
Right.
You can't leave it on others.
Right.
So that is how the interest was gradually generated.
Okay.
And then when I used to work in the kitchen, watching these people who used to come and work, I was very intrigued.
So how old were you then?
Hardly 8 to 10 years at
Okay,
that time,
so
but
really
it was
young, yeah.
Yes, I was very young, but it was very intriguing because we were all in every dinner that we had at home. Even the children were very involved in it because all of us used to serve the guests and everything.
Right.
So
right.
that involvement was there in the family. So basically, this interest was developed because of the family background that I had.
Okay.
Then gradually, I realized that these professional cooks who used to be called by my grandfather and even thereafter by my father, they had a tinge of professionality in it, which was more of a commercial nature.
Right. So it didn't come from within.
Yes. So that is, if you want to control that, you really can't do it unless you have some knowledge about the cuisine and the food and everything.
Right. Right.
So that is how the interest which was generated developed gradually.
Okay.
And then I started cooking myself.
Okay.
And a time came when most of these renowned cooks in the city, they would refuse to come and work for me. They said, no, he will take out all the ingredients which they wanted to put in. So that is how, by trial and error.
Yeah. So it was all self-learning and observing.
Yes, it was basically by observation.
Yeah.
And somehow I had a taste. Once I used to taste something, I could, by trial and error, somehow be able to make it. Which is something very difficult, because these people use so many things that it is very difficult to fathom as to what they have put in it.
Right.
And then when I was doing my LLM in New York University, that was the time when during the weekends I was quite free.
Right.
There was nothing to do.
Yeah.
So there were certain shops which were Indian and Pakistani shops in Jackson Heights in Queens area. So I used to go there, and they used to have all these types of spices which you don't really get anywhere else.
Right.
So I used to buy them because I had heard about them. I had seen them. I had seen them being used. And that is the time when I started doing it, more of it myself. So by trial and error, I could somehow get those flavors gradually.
Right.
And now I people come to me for guidance.
I mean, you've been doing it for so many years.
Like every 5-star hotel here which opens. And every time the chef changes here. So they make it a point to call me to taste the food and to give him the tips.
So why did you not switch your profession from law and actually, set up restaurants and,
no, this
and
is
be involved?
Food is basically my passion.
Okay.
You see.
Yeah.
And my profession is my family profession. My grandfather was a lawyer. My uncle was a lawyer.
Right.
So it has been coming down generations and after generations in the family.
Right.
But food is a passion,
Right.
You can't survive on food.
Yeah. Well, you can. I mean, if you commercialize it, then you
can.
Then
you can.
And
Yes,
that's,
perhaps.
I guess, not something that you want to do.
If you convert the passion into business, then maybe you can.
Yeah.
But that was never the idea. The idea was to somehow get the other person, get the feel of the food as to what the Avadhi food is.
Yeah.
Because now you in the commercial establishments are not serving it. That is the whole difficulty.
So now you have to tell me and my listeners, what is Awadhi food?
Well, Avadhi food, the basic ingredient of Avadhi food is that it is very soft and succulent.
Okay.
That is the first important thing about it. And the aroma of the spices is very, very mild.
Okay.
It is such that the basic taste of the particular meat that you are using, for instance, the fish or the chicken or the mutton, that is maintained.
Right.
But that spice which they use, the quantity is so little that it is just the aroma which controls it.
Right.
And for making it tender, so that it melts in your mouth, there are certain tenderizers that we use.
And
one of the main tenderizers that we normally use in day-to-day cooking is raw papaya.
Ah, yes. Yes.
And that raw papaya is used in quantities which are very, very small. And that is what is required to be monitored, you see, because as to how, if you use more papaya than is required, it'll go sour, whatever you're cooking.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So raw papaya is one of the ingredients that we use as tenderizers.
Okay.
And then when we use it, then the fiber part of the mutton, that somehow vanishes. It can be seen, but the moment you put it in your mouth, it melts.
Right.
So that is what the beauty.
So how long would you tenderize? How long would you leave it?
Well, that depends upon dish to dish.
Okay.
For mutton, it takes a little longer time.
Okay.
Then, of course, it depends which particular thing you are cooking.
Right.
If you are cooking a kebab,
yeah,
then maybe it takes a lesser time.
Yeah.
If you are cooking a roast,
yeah,
then it takes more time.
Yeah.
But ultimately the end result is that when you are eating it,
yeah,
then the fiber doesn't stick in the teeth.
Yeah. So
That is
like
the
you're
best
saying,
part
it
of the
just
Avadhi cuisine.
It just melts in
Yes,
your
it just
mouth.
melts.
Yeah. You're listening to a fusion of stories recounted for the first time ever by some fascinating people from across the globe with me, Payal, on this very unique and special podcast series, Melting Pot. So so I know that there's a lot of meat involved and mainly mutton is what my understanding is. But what about the vegetables?
Well, there are two things that we primarily use to overcome the ill effects of mutton.
Okay.
One is, of course, vegetables, because in the day-to-day life here, we don't normally cook raw mutton. We either mix some vegetable, some green vegetable in it.
Okay.
Like,
and is it so the vegetables you used is based on the season that
primarily.
Okay.
Primarily. It's
Okay.
based on the season.
Okay.
And the other ingredient which is used in all the red meat that we cook
Right.
is a black cardamom, which is a big
cardamom. Okay. Yeah.
that we use. It is said that it is a sort of a tenderizer, not so much as a tenderizer,
Yeah.
but more of a digestive.
Right. Yeah, because meat can be heavy.
Yes,
Yeah,
it can
yeah.
be heavy.
Yeah.
So that helps in digestion of the meat.
Okay. And the vegetables again. So what would be typical I know it's seasonal, but say in the winters.
In the winters, the leafy vegetables such
Okay.
as I don't know what would you call it, like
Spinach? Okay.
spinach,
Yeah.
spinach mixed with mutton.
Okay.
It is known as sag meat.
Right.
That is one of the delicacies, in fact,
Right.
during the season.
Right.
Then there is, I don't know what you call, taroi gourd you call.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So that with that, there are a lot of, practically every vegetable is mixed. And
So then you actually
There are
cook
different-
it along with the meat.
well, there are different ways of cooking it. Depends
Yeah.
upon how hard or how soft the vegetable is.
Right.
So
Right.
sometimes it is put at the fag end, sometimes it is cooked together, sometimes it's put in the middle, so that both the tastes are maintained. This is what we.
So again, that is experimenting.
That is
and-
experimenting,
trying
and
to
that is
figure out,
that is
yeah.
knowing about the vegetable
Yeah. Yeah.
also.
Yeah. And so would you also eat a lot of meat in the summer? Because winters, I can understand, it's fine if you do that. But summers also, meat is an important.
Mutton, yes, meat is a part of, it's a daily sort of a part of every meal, in
Right.
fact, here
Right.
in Awadh. But one thing is there, that the quantities that we consume
It's probably
are
less.
very restricted.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is one thing.
Yeah.
It is had every day, even whether it's summers or winters.
Yeah.
Winters, we shift more towards the birds, such as the partridge, the quail. So, and there are other migratory birds also, which are often, yes.
Right.
Now, of course, it is declined.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
otherwise, initially there used to be a lot of migratory birds also. So, winters, so we have a lot of birds. And most of the birds that we have, they are supposed to be warm. They keep you warm.
Warm. Okay. Yeah.
Like
yeah.
partridge and the quail particularly.
Yeah,
So they are known to be warm birds.
So how did meat become such an important part of Awadhi cuisine? Is there a history behind it, or
I think that because of its availability all the year round. You know.
yeah.
And the meat that we eat in Lucknow and in Awadh particularly,
Yeah.
it is goat meat and not lamb.
Okay.
So goat meat is, it is softer.
Right.
Secondly, it has a distinct and different flavor than what lamb has. So it is always preferred to lamb. And in fact, in Awadh, we don't eat lamb at all.
Okay.
We only eat goat.
Okay. And okay, so goat is the mainstay.
Yes,
Okay.
goat is the mainstay because
Yeah.
they are now, goat is basically bred for it. Lamb, though you breed for wool.
Yeah. Right.
But goat,
Yeah.
it doesn't give you any wool.
Yeah.
You see, it's only
So
bred
then
for this.
for the meats.
And there is no season for them. So they are available 24 hours,
Yeah.
7 days, 365
All right
days.
through the
Yes,
year.
all
Yeah,
through the
yeah.
year.
So
that is
how often, you have a very busy schedule because you're a lawyer, and how often do you manage to get into your kitchen and actually cook?
Well, now I feel it's a stress buster for me.
Okay.
Yes, because
Yeah.
I do feel that. And I do walk into the kitchen, say, once in a week or so.
Okay.
to just, you can say, get rid of the stress.
Stress, right.
It is, yes.
Right. So then what would you cook? What is a typical thing and how many hours would you spend in the kitchen?
Maybe a couple of hours at the most,
Okay.
not beyond that.
Yeah.
But sometimes I would cook with something, with pulao, which is a sort of a biryani.
Okay.
Otherwise,
Is that the yakhni pulao?
Yakhni pulao,
Okay,
yes. That
yeah.
is easier to cook.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So that is quicker. Then, of course, the korma part, the mutton curry,
Okay.
which is, actually there are several types of mutton curries.
Yeah.
And these curries depend upon the portion which you are using and the manner in which you cook them.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So something is known as korma, something is known as stew.
Stew, correct,
Something,
yeah.
all
Yeah,
there are all
yeah,
variations.
different, yeah,
But
yeah.
ultimately it's the same thing. They are curries in
Yeah.
different forms.
Yeah.
Of course, the flavor and the texture is, to look at, is different also, and to taste is also different.
So when you entertain, and you probably entertain a lot, do you get involved in the kitchen?
At times, not always,
Okay.
but at times. Because most of the people now who do the work for me they've been trained by me.
Right.
So they know what to do. So you don't have to really be involved every time.
So when you travel, and I know you travel a lot, what is the typical, depending on which part of the world you are in, would you miss the food, the Awadhi food, when you're traveling?
Well, at times, yes.
You do.
When there's a long travel, long gap, then
Yeah.
you do miss. Because that taste you don't get anywhere else.
Right, right.
That Avadhi cuisine
Yeah,
and that succulent and the tender meat,
yeah.
that is not available anywhere in the world. This much I can tell you. So after a little while, this you do miss.
You do start to miss it. And outside of Awadhi cuisine, what would be your favorite cuisine?
Well, outside the Avadhi cuisine would be something to do with the tandoor.
Okay.
And why I'm saying tandoor is because in Avadhi cuisine, we use very little spices, only for the
said.
aroma part, as I
Yeah,
told you earlier.
Yeah.
In the tandoori dishes also, the spice part is a very small part. Rest is basically marinated with curd and with vinegar and all those things. And when you put it in fire, raw flame,
Yeah.
then that is, one can say that a little smell, whether it is associated with curd or whether it's associated with vinegar,
Right.
that also goes away. So you can get the taste of meat and it becomes succulent also
Right.
because they are tenderized.
Yeah.
So you get a feeling of tender mutton.
Yeah.
So tandoori items, and this is quite common in practically all over the country now.
Yeah. But outside,
In fact, even in UK, I saw a lot of tandoori chicken. All
but
these places.
is it the same, or
It is not the same.
it's probably more skewered towards the palate
Yes.
of the country where it. Yeah.
That it
yeah,
is.
yeah,
That
yeah,
it is. But
yeah.
then it is quite close. The
It
tandoori
is.
items are quite close.
Okay.
Yes.
That's interesting.
Because I've had tandoori items in the Arab countries also.
Yeah.
I've had tandoori items in Britain also.
Yeah.
In others, in Singapore, other places also.
Yeah.
But they are quite close. For that matter,
So-
in Thailand also, the
Really?
tandoori item that all the items which they cook on flame,
Yeah.
they might not be as tender as they are here.
Yeah.
But then you get the flavor quite close to it. That is one thing nice
So
about
then I guess if you're missing your Awadhi food, then you actually head out and have some
Yes,
tandoor.
I would prefer that.
You would prefer that.
I would prefer that.
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, so so that's your passion, and I would love to sample. I think I have sampled it. I probably have, yeah. Probably in Singapore, I'm not sure, but I know, or even here, some of the kebabs that we had,
Yes.
were they sort of catered, or did you actually prepare them yourself?
Well, they are not exactly catered.
Yeah.
They are cooked according to my specifications.
Okay,
By my own men.
Okay.
And since in this cooking,
Yeah.
one thing I haven't told you, which you must know, that most of the Avadhi cooking is done on low coal flame.
I see. Okay.
So therefore, we avoid all this mess in the house
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
So we have places earmarked for it, which
Okay.
might be slightly away from the house.
Okay.
So like this kitchen that we have,
Yeah.
we have all this coal and wood which we use to control the flame. These cooks, they are not trained to control the flame with gas ovens and electric ovens,
Right.
So they do it by the flame.
Okay.
So under our guidance, they may be doing it slightly away from the home, but they do it. That is how they do it.
Okay. That's interesting. Wow. I actually want to go and have some Awadhi food as soon as we end this conversation. So thank you so much, Prashant. It's been interesting, and I hope my listeners have kind of got some sense of what Awadhi food is all about. And it's been great talking to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Prashant is such a dynamic person, don't you agree? It was so interesting to listen to him talk about how he developed a passion for cooking and also the way he describes some of the dishes that he cooks and how it is prepared is so mouth-watering. I really learned a lot about the Awadhi cuisine after talking to Prashant and, all the different flavors that the palate experiences is just something to die for. Hope you're also excited now to try some of the Awadhi cuisine, which is what Lucknow, the city of Nawabs, is famous for. Lucknow is a city that I have learned in this 1 week is so steeped in history. And it makes it so very special. I will be back with another episode of A Melting Pot. Until then, this is Payal signing off.